Welcome back to Stories with Dave. This is Chapter 6, Althea Reigns in Shangri-La, Part 2. Code Talker rubbed his head. He could smell the moonshine on Slump's breath from a couple feet away. He was still trying to find an obvious source for the nickname. There was nothing slumpy at all about this man. He stood well over 6 feet tall, and he was all bone and sinew and tanned hide with a pair of fierce, warm, but also a bit crazy blue-gray eyes floating above it all from near the center of a 5-day shadow, threatened, in places, to become an actual beard. Except for a pair of old overalls, he wore no clothes to speak of, not even shoes. He looked as though he'd been dipped in sorghum, hung from the rafters, and cured whole with last summer's crop of tobacco. Nipper answered him. Slump, this here's my buddy Code Talker. He ain't kin to nobody around here, nobody close. Ain't he? No, sir, Nipper said. Code Talker here is from Virginia, but he's got people in Oliver Springs and Oak Ridge. What kind of people? Cutlers, Nipper said. And Hibbs, Code Talker added. Seems to me like I knowed some cutlers once upon a time or another. Can't place them now, though. You uns take a pull with me? Yes, sir, that would be good medicine. Yes, sir, Nipper said. Thank you. Of course, I got... Is he all right? Slump said, gesturing to Code Talker. He's cool, Nipper said. I got something for you to take back to Cotton, Slump said, watching Code Talker closely as if he might make a sudden move. Y'all sit now. I'll be right back. He paused for a moment and he glared poison at the federal government placard in the windshield of Nipper's truck as he passed it. Then he shook his lowered head, looked back at Nipper with great sadness in his eyes, and said, By God, your papa'd roll over in his grave and shit himself if he knew you was an effing revenuer. He said revenuer like he could smell dog shit close by. I ain't no revenuer, Nipper said. Slump vanished with a slight limp around the corner behind the chicken coop. I ain't no effing revenuer, Nipper repeated louder. Normally, census takers don't travel in teams, but teams have been authorized just this once by headquarters up in Crossville for county towns like Baxter and Sparta, which Paul Harvey once called the capital, vanished without a trace. Normally, census takers didn't investigate dangerous settlements. They designated locations as dangerous settlements and left the investigating to the FBI. But this was no normal census. And it wasn't normal for a lot of reasons that had nothing at all to do with the new millennium. They could hear old Slump say something unintelligible. Then he reappeared around the side of the chicken coop carrying a big old stoneware jug. He took a long, hard drink from it while he walked. He hoisted the jug just as naturally as wiping his brow. And he drank again and handed the sloshing jug to Code Talker. Code Talker took a good pull. It burned like isopropyl alcohol. And he winced and coughed once, hard, sort of a combination sneeze and cough. He tried to catch his breath. Slump slapped his thigh and laughed. Slump didn't have many teeth left. Most of those were gold ones. I'm sure sorry about that, old buddy, he said. We don't get too much company. Wouldn't be polite to set on the good stuff. Well, I don't reckon you do have much company, Slump. Daggum, Nipper said, catching his own breath. He took a second deep lug of the moonshine and said, Man, oh man. Shit. Told you. What's she proof at? Nipper asked, still blowing the words out as he passed the jug back to Slump. Hell, I don't know. A lot, I reckon. High enough to make you take shit back you didn't even steal. Tell you what, old boy that makes this here is every bit of 100 years old. And he... Shh. Yins hear that? The three men listened into the distant brightness of the morning sun in the valley. Songbirds skittered across the foreground, rejoicing at the promise of fruit. In the far distance, the men could hear the sound of an engine run, revving high. Watch, Slump said. He gestured toward the road with a loud slosh of the jug. The engine grew louder and louder, and then the source appeared, a bright pink 1959 convertible Cadillac Eldorado, fishtailing around the turn, headed straight at them at the apex of a long rooster tail of pale yellow dust that hung in the air and settled in a yellow film along the leaves of the trees that lined the road after it passed. You didn't see that? Said Slump. The visitors nodded. Yes, they'd seen it. Man, ain't that old what's-her-face? Nipper said. Reverend Goolsby's wife? That looks just like her caddy. Gotta be, Code Talker said. How many of those would be in the whole plateau? Well, if that's a woman, Slump said, then it's the ugliest damn woman that ever lived, and a monster, too. She could take all three of us, sure as I'm standing here, and us not even drunk. It must be the Reverend, then, Nipper said, though I can't for the life of me think what he'd be doing down here. Slump shrugged and took a drink. Ever since I started seeing that El Dorado on a regular, shit around here ain't been right exactly. Something in the air. Come to think of it, ever since them Melungeons moved in yonder, or Mexicans or something. They was up at the old White House, you know, the one back up the valley a ways, but not permanent, just a few days here, a few days there. They's cooking for sure, though, them Melungeons or Mexicans or whatever. Like to caught me over there snooping one day last week. I got a little tub of that mawon for you from that last visit. At least that's what I believe it is. Anyway, they got this old baby doll tied up to the front gate pole up there. That right there done put the spook on old Slump, I tell you what. It's got them shiny eyes that'll open or close, and one of them things is stuck halfway open, and the other watches you wherever you go like it's following you. Feels like it's some kind of sign, like there's a signal at somebody. Slump looked at the men's eyes to see if it looked like they thought he was as crazy as he knew he sounded. Things have been kindly messed up down here since they've been around, you know it. And that Cadillac started showing up same time them Melungeons started showing up, or Mexicans. When I don't have nothing better to do, I've been hitting them with glitter loads if I catch them coming by, and other stuff. Kindly experiment. While they passed the jug, Slump told them how he'd already lost 3 chickens and a fainting goat to that pink Cadillac Eldorado. How some days he just rode back and forth, passing by sometimes 6 or 8 times of an evening, and how he'd be inspired by his presence and by the loss of his critters to resume last summer's project of developing non-lethal experimental loads for Althea, some of which he'd let fly just ahead of that old Cadillac as it made the last turn. I tried confetti, but that didn't want to launch right. It kindly did, but I wanted more of a floaty effect, so I tried chicken feathers. But that stunk the place up so bad with singed feather smell, I had to settle on glitter, sometimes glitter mixed with a little confetti. That's got a slightly different effect. The report's what matters anyhow, I reckon. Slump eased back against the stair and stretched his back. Tell you what, if yins don't care, help me get that mawon loaded in your truck, and then we'll see if we can get them chickens back in the coop and make sure the goat's penned up. And I'll get another glitter load ready. He'll be back by the by, sure as the day is long. Mandy? Slump called into the house. Oh, Mandy! Presently, a shadowy silhouette loomed up behind the screen at the front door. What? She said. They couldn't see her face clearly, but they knew it was scowling. Shug, if yins don't care, bring us out some of that sweet tea. She stood there for a moment, arms akimbo, staring poison and suspicion at them one at a time. Slump laughed. Then she vanished, and she returned pleasantly with a plastic jug of iced tea and a small stack of red Solo cups. Here, she said. She handed the jug and cups to Slump and said, don't you even think about getting drunk, Samuel Bryant. We got church. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Shug, he said, winked at the boys, and poured everyone a chaser. Mandy disappeared again, her voice fading back into the house, but still warbling dire pronouncements and predictions at the walls inside. See how she dotes on me, Slump said. He winked, grinning wide and golden. He drank from the mash jug again and passed it around, and when they all had another couple pulls, they walked around back to fetch the 2 paint buckets of raw ephedrine Slump had liberated from the Melungeons, or Mexicans, speed cooking operation that seemed to be making its way down the valley toward Nashville, moving from one safe lab to the next. They'd set up a lab, burn it or get caught, and then backfill the crew and move on. That's where the boys came in, and characters like Slump, for whom all roads led back to Cotton. Cotton will like this here, Slump said as he lifted the buckets up down the bed of the truck and covered them with the tarp. Whoever made that there still has a bulk supplier for trucker tabs. That solvent ain't nothing but water, by God. Not even a taste of toluene to it. I know, I done tasted it myself. Then they set about gathering the chickens and goats back out of the yard close to the road. The goats proved to be problematic since they were fainting goats. That took some getting used to. Nipper couldn't seem to creep quietly enough to herd the damn things without startling them into paralysis. So he got more and more frustrated and cussed more and more the harder he tried, which only added to the goats' stress, making their fainting reflex in turn even more hairpin and dramatic. Then, to make matters even more interesting, Slump's Vietnamese pig, Jane, woke up from its nap under the porch and joined the commotion, squealing the goats into a sudden paralysis whenever it found an opportunity to scurry in close enough. And so they progressed, Nipper and his dubious herd moving across the farmyard 5 or 6 hard-won feet at a time. And now and then one of the goats would jump up suddenly to circle back behind Nipper, where Jane awaited, whee, causing him to have to start from the beginning. Slump got so tickled watching this impromptu slapstick comedy that he forgot all about reloading Althea for the return of the Cadillac, which appeared presently, roaring around the curve in the road at the heart of a billowing cloud of yellowing dust, like a tornado with a hot pink tomato floating at the bottom of it, just narrowly missing Code Talker and 2 of Slump's chickens, and then finished the turn through the trees in a rush of spinning gravel and was gone. Well, shit, Slump said, watching the taillights vanish on a distant turn through the settling yellow dust. That warn't no woman. I got a good look at him that time. I think you're right, by God. That there's Reverend Goolsby hot rodding like that, wide open, and in his missus' car, too. Mine's telling me it ain't possible. But there it was, sure enough, plain as day. Who'd have thunk it? Thanks for joining me today for Chapter 6, Part 2 of Hokey Pokey, Althea reigns in Shangry. Tune in next time for Chapter 7, The Great Titillation. Thanks again. Remember, you can get a print version to read along for yourself if you'd like. The link is in the description. I appreciate your support.